I want to thank Maine MultiCultural Center for this opportunity to be here to speak to you and to answer your questions. It's simply about my journey. I'm not talking about any some academic stuff. It's just simply my journey, how I came from Syria to the United States, how I adjusted. When I came to the US, my mom just passed away in Syria a few years prior to me coming to the US. I had 3 siblings there. I left behind the 3 siblings, and I already had my brother in Kentucky, and that's where I came to in the US. I had a scholarship because I was one of the top students in my class at the university in Syria. So they wanted me to study linguistics, to get my master's and my PhD in linguistics. So I came to the US, and I just started my master's degree when I met with my husband, my current husband. So it was a distraction. I had to move to Houston. So my plans were not, going the right way or as I planned for them to be. And it was a challenge for me because I came to the US to achieve those dreams, to go back to Syria and to be a professor teaching at the local university there where I came from. So that's why I came to the US. I found myself an immigrant by coincidence. So being an immigrant, it was not the plan at all. I came here to stay for 5 years. That was the program, 2 years to get my master's degree, 3 to 4 years to get my PhD in linguistics and go back home. And then I found myself, living in Kentucky for a few months. Then I moved with my husband to Houston, and then we went out. We had to leave the US to go to Canada. So I will go back to this, but first I will talk about my life in Syria before I came here. So I come from a middle-class educated family. My parents, both of them went to college in Syria. We're talking about early 60s. All of my aunts, my uncles, so everyone just went to college. That was like a granted thing they had to go to college. It was, as I said, educated family, and education was very important, especially for their females. So my mother went to college early 60s to get her degree in English literature. My dad went to Egypt to get his degree in economics. That's what they call it, like business administration, economics. That's what they call it overseas. And he went back to work in Syria. Leadership in my family, it's a big thing in my family. I never paid attention to it until someone asked me this question directly. They said, so did you get this from your family, the leadership traits you have? And I paused. It hit me that I never thought about it before they asked me that direct question. My mother, she was in the mid-60s, and she was just very young, just out of college. She was an English teacher. She was appointed as the director of the Syrian Women Union, the chapter in our city. So she was appointed the director of that chapter. So that was a big position for her to hold, even though she was very young. And then a principal, an English teacher at that same school, and the director. So, and she was a mother of 5 children and a full career woman. My dad has full-time job working for the government, auditing big establishments in the government. And then he became a mayor. So this is where I grew up, and I never thought about it before that woman asked me that question. I've never thought about the leadership traits I got from my mother, how she was so humble, and she was so good talking to people, connecting with people, listening to their problems, problem solver all the time. People coming to our house to talk about their problems, their kids at school, the problems. So the school comes home when my mom is back home. My dad, when he was a mayor, the same exact thing. He comes back home. So our dinner table is a kind of one of the most interesting conversations ever, because it's a combination of city issues and school issues. So it was just amazing. It was amazing. And I definitely owe them a lot for who I am now. How my mom, even though she was dying, she was very sick, but we were talking about this, and she was telling me how excited she was that I was planning to get my master's and hopefully my PhD, but now I'm taking a break. So I'm not yet. But she was so excited to, when we were talking about this. My dad, when I told him, I'm going to the US, he was, go ahead, just, follow your dreams. And when I told him a couple of years ago, before he passed away to COVID, when I told him I'm planning to run for city council, he was super excited. And another piece I did not mention was that my grandfather, mother's side, was the mayor. Talking about probably the 40s in Syria. So this is, and he was a poet, and at the time of the French occupation in Syria, he published a newspaper to fight the occupation and to encourage people to fight. But because it was banned, so he had to do it secretly. So it was published secretly and it was distributed secretly. We still have a copy of that newspaper till today. It's just amazing when I look back and see all of this in the family. It was really something I'm very proud of. So I went to an all-girls school in Syria. Back then, we did not have mixed schools where boys and girls go to the same school. It was all-girls school. We had middle school and high school in the same building. It was a huge school. And that's where my mom was the principal for years there. Even though she was the principal, I never got a special treatment because everyone knows better. When everyone was punished, I was punished with them, even though I did nothing wrong. I had to be the perfect girl, the perfect student, just because my mother was the principal. Everyone was looking, at me as the daughter of the principal. It was rough. I mean, to keep up with that, it was not easy. But she was extremely fair, and everyone till today talks about how fair she was and how her leadership was able to lead the school to a better place at that time. So anyway, I went to an all-girls school, and when I started my high school, I had the option. So overseas, you have the option of taking, when you go to high school, to take either the science branch or literature branch. That's what they call it. So science branch, it's mostly science, math, physics, chemistry. I hated that. I preferred to take the other route, which is because I think I inherited some of those traits in my family. I love to write poetry. I love to just write prose, whatever happened, I used to write about that. I was the best in my class writing essays. They always had me read them to the class because they loved them. So that's who I was. And it was a stigma. If you take the literature path, which means history, literature, oh, you are not smart enough to go to the science branch. I'm like, I just hated it. I did not find myself there. When the whole family was against it, because there is and I'm going to go to that piece, the family system there, the whole family was against it, but my mom and dad were like, that's what you like, that's your choice, go for it. The whole city was involved in this. The whole city was against it. And everyone was going to my mother, oh, she should not, she's smart, she should not. I'm like, and my mother said, this is what she loves to do, and she had the choice. And I really, when I think back, I'm so lucky that I had her support and my father's support. Otherwise, I would be miserable. I would have been miserable. So I chose that path, and when I went to college, I chose to study English literature and English language. And overseas, you don't have major and minor. So you don't go for, oh, I'm majoring in English, but I'm minoring in middle school education or we don't have that. So it's English literature and language, and it is English literature and language, meaning I read every single book you can think about. Early, like 19th century, early 15th or 14th century literature, Shakespeare, I mean, every single book you can imagine. And my favorite was The Scarlet Letter. That was my favorite. When I read it and, learning about stigma and how the culture and how the society, you are under scrutiny and you have to watch every single word you say or every single action you take. So that was fascinating. But if you ask me about the other books, I mean, good luck. I hate to admit how old I am, but it's old. And I can't remember the names of those books I read back then, but Scarlet Letter, it stood out because it was very different from the other books I read. So when I graduated, so I excelled in college, and I was invited to be a teacher assistant. So overseas, to be invited to be a teacher assistant, it means you are one of the top in your class. So I came second in the whole class of 1992, 1993. I came second. The one who came first, she came to the US. She had her master's and PhD in literature, and she went back and she's now teaching in our local university in Syria. So I was invited and I taught there for a couple of years, and then I had this opportunity to come to the US. Now, before I came to the US, just to give you a little bit about my family. So we are practicing Muslims, meaning we, like, everyone prays, everyone, fasts, gives charity, and like just regular Muslim family, and more, I hate to say moderate or, extreme, but somewhere in the middle, practicing Muslims. But hijab, for example, it was not enforced in our family, and it was not something that was encouraged either. So it was not encouraged at all. And probably some of you heard my story when I decided to wear the scarf back when I was 23 years old. My mom already passed away, and we were taken care of. I was old enough, I was 18, and my siblings were younger. But we live in apartment buildings overseas. So our grandparents live on the floor next to us. So on top, so we were up and down the whole day, me and my siblings, up and down. And so it was an amazing and huge family support system there. But there is what we call enmeshment. I don't see it as a negative thing though, because I feel without that enmeshment, I can't see how we would have been able to thrive after the passing of my mother, because it was a huge loss. Because I mean, given who she was and her impact on our lives as our mother, but not only our lives, but her family's life, the whole community's life. So her loss was huge without the support of our family and our neighbors and our friends. And I don't know if we would have been able to do it. So it was really, so our grandparents, they were there all the time, uncles, aunts, everyone was there, everyone. That helped a lot. But when it was time and I decided, you know what, I want to wear the scarf. Me and my sister, it was Ramadan, the first day of Ramadan, and we came to my dad, and he's a cool dad. He was a cool dad, practicing Muslim, but hijab, again, the scarf he was not a big fan of it. He did not like it. My mother neither. She covered a couple years before she passed away. She was very sick. She felt she wanted to fulfill this obligation, and, to have this peace of mind when she passes, that she fulfilled it, and God is pleased with her, hopefully. So when I talked to my dad, me and my sister, it was the first day of Ramadan, and my dad was not happy at all. And I can still remember his face. He was shocked. He was unhappy, and he called our grandma to come downstairs, to come to us, because she was, in the upper level. And she came down, and we had a family meeting. And So the whole family chipped in, and everyone was like, how about you wait a couple more years, you and your sister? And okay, nope, we're doing it. And it's really, I wanted to stress this. I want to underscore how in our family, it's the opposite way. You hear about those stories where females were forced to wear the scarf versus in my family. I mean, and overall, in educated families, you don't see this practice where girls are forced to wear the scarf. It's not the case. But as you go more into rural areas, into areas where people have less access to education, or people interpret religion in a different way, that's where, forced marriage, forced hijab, and all of this, the stories the negative stories we hear about, that's where you can find them more and more. They prevail more in rural areas. So the whole family came together to discuss this. My dad was against it. My grandma was like, oh my gosh, you're not doing it. You're not doing this. But they could not force us not to do it. They could not force us not to wear the hijab. So we did it, and they were okay with it, but they were not happy. So I wanted to talk about this piece. It's really important just to show you how people are different. Their perspective of this is different, and cultural practices, are different in families. In my family, it was against the scarf, against wearing the scarf. So that's how it was. But I think everyone was okay with it. And then wearing the scarf became more popular in town, and they became more familiar with it, and it was fine. But everyone, when I went to school, to college with the scarf, everyone was shocked as well. I'm not the one who they expected would wear the scarf, so it was a big shock. It did not affect, though, the way they looked at me or treated me. It was fine. It was fine. So this is Syria, and people went to college there for free. So you don't pay to go to college overseas. Things have changed a lot in the last 25 years since I left. Of course, I mean, everything is evolving. I mean, I can't expect that things will stay the same overseas the way I left them 25 years ago. So prior to the war, a few years before the war, private schools started to become more popular overseas. So people who want their kids to, for example, to study medicine, but they did not get the scores that will, make them eligible to enter to school of medicine or medical school. They can pay more money and get into a private school and do it there. So 25 years ago, that's when those private schools started to emerge in Syria. And now there are many of them, but still public universities are available, are there, and people go there for free. Even the choices are not as great as 25 years ago, before private schools started to happen and to emerge. But still, people who can't afford it, they can still do it. They can still go to public school, and they just pay for books. And of course, if they're coming from out of state, they will pay for rent, not for out of state. Like, they don't have that system over there. So if you come from a different city, you don't pay out of state or out of city fees. It doesn't work like that. You just rent an apartment, and you attend classes as everyone else. So this is how it is over there. I'm trying to remember if I missed anything about my college life in Syria, about okay, I think this is about my life in Syria, but I was a very, not naughty, but I loved to play outside. We did not have, so this is an important piece to talk about. Things have changed, of course, but when I was a young kid, 5, 6, 7 years old, we did not have after school activities. We did not have after school curricula. We did not have anything after school. So we go back home, we finish our homeworks, and we play in the street. That's how it was. And I love to play in the street. I love to play soccer. I love to play basketball. I love to play all of those hide and seek. And I was everywhere, and I love to bike. So I would take the bike and disappear and come back a couple hours later, and my mom would lose her mind. Where did you disappear? But I was a free spirit. I just loved to be outdoor. I loved to play, and we had a very safe neighborhood. It was very safe in Syria. It was extremely safe. You just play outside, and no need for even your family supervision. But of course, my parents were there like hawks. It's always watching us and making sure, we're safe. But I love to go biking and leave the group and just go. But I gave my parents hard time coming back to the apartment because I just wanted to be outside. I just loved it. And I always had those cuts, and they would rush me to the hospital to get stitches because I was playing with, I don't know, some boxes. They have some metal attached to them. Just the crazy things. I love to play. I just love to play. I enjoyed it. So you would find boys and girls playing in the street, and we would block the street. Like we would literally block the street, and cars can't move. That's how, and it was okay. It was okay overseas back then. It was a new development by the Mediterranean. So, and by the way, I lived right by the Mediterranean. So I sit on our balcony, and the whole Mediterranean is in front of me. So I used to study all night long. I would study between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. and watch the fishermen heading to fish. And it was one of the most beautiful scenes I have ever had. And I cherish those moments. When I'm feeling down, I tell my husband, let's go to Bar Harbor. I want to be by the water, by the ocean. There's sense of peace when I'm by the water, and there is nothing that can be compared to that. I go to many beautiful places, like serene areas, mountains in New Hampshire, but nothing like being by the ocean. It is the ocean. So it is those nights when I would spend the whole night studying while watching the water, watching boats heading out, and it was just beautiful. So this is, and by the way, neighbors, we were very close, and this is how it is in Syria because we live in apartment buildings, so neighbors are very close to each other. So if we cook something that smells good, our neighbors would be, like we can smell amazing, like stuff coming from your apartment. Oh, come over. They would come, or we would put them a plate and they will share it with us. My brother, one time he was coming back from school, and when I say school, from college, and our neighbor was frying eggplants and cauliflowers. And the smell was just so awesome. And I heard him, oh, auntie, the smell is amazing. She said, oh, come inside. He went inside, and she made him a sandwich. And that's how simple and amazing life was. It was like everyone loved everyone else. Everyone was, close to everyone else. And everyone was in everyone else's business as well. So there's the downside to this. If someone comes to visit you, oh, someone came to visit you, you did not invite me. So you have all of that. It's just so, so hilarious how, when I talk about enmeshment, again, it can have, but me, it's still positive. I never see it as negative at all. When your uncle just knocks on the door and he shows up at 6 p.m., probably you're doing your homework. It doesn't matter. You're at dinner time, oh, come join. So it doesn't matter. Enmeshment is always good. In our culture, we don't see it as, like, we don't see any negative connotation connected to it, just to, to explain this. Now, when I came to the US, the culture shock, yes, of course, absolutely. But if you ask me, I can still, about when I arrived to the US, when the plane landed at JFK airport, when it was landing and going around, you know how they go around until they land safely, when they was going around Manhattan, and that was one of the best scenes that I will never forget. How it was landing, and all of these what do you call them? High rises, right? Yeah, high rises. All of these beautiful. I was just amazed. It took my breath away, literally. I was looking around, oh my God, what is this? It was awesome. I did not want to go to Louisville in Kentucky. I wanted to stay in New York. It was just fantastic. It was amazing. And it's still till today, but nothing like that first time when the plane landed. There's nothing like that specific time. So when I came to live in Louisville, where my brother was doing his residency, and it was hilarious. I gave him hard time wherever we go. What does Walmart refer to? What does it mean? And he's like, it's just Walmart. I don't know. What does Target mean? Does it mean the Target? He's like, please, like, don't try to translate every single thing you see out there. Just sometimes he was like fed up with it. And the culture shock was also driving, because everything was so organized. You follow traffic lights, you stop sign, you stop when there is stops. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to stop at every stop sign. We did not do that overseas, of course. And if you happen and you stopped at a traffic stop sign or traffic light when it turns red, they start honking at you like, move. It's red. How do you expect me to move? But this is how. So imagine, it's very different. It's very different. So everything was very different when I went to school. I had to get my GRE first, so I went to Kaplan Institute to get my GRE before I go to school, and everyone was on their computers, and I looked at them because at that time I just left Syria and I did not know much about the computer. The computer just started to emerge in Syria. In 1996, 1997, that's when the computer started to emerge, and I did not get to learn much about it. And I came here, everyone was on their computers, and I was, oh, how am I going to do this? So it's using the pencil until today. Look here, I have those, and I can't help it. This is me. It's my generation, I bet. So I struggled, and I sometimes felt backward when everyone else was on their computers, but that's what it was, and I had just to deal with it. So when I got married and I moved to Houston with my husband, it was just Syrian friends in the same compound, tons of them. To my right, the apartment to my right was an amazing woman from Damascus, from Syria, with her husband and son. To the left, an Egyptian family. And then downstairs, another Syrian family. You just feel like I was surrounded with many Syrians that I did not feel I needed to get to know anyone else. So it was just this group of women. We hang out together, we go for shopping. My husband leaves the car for me because we could not afford to buy two cars. He was just a resident back then. So he will take the shuttle to go to the hospital there. We lived in like next to the medical center. So there was a shuttle that would leave at 5 a.m. Actually 24 hours a day, they don't stop. So he would leave in the car, and I would go have fun, lunches, shopping. But I was not happy. I was still thinking about, what am I doing? But I had my son, so that kept me busy, and I needed to keep him entertained. And if he is here listening, he was, where is he? Is he there, Omar? And Omar, forgive me to say this, but he was not an easy child. So I had to keep him entertained, take him to the park and entertain him for hours and play with him for hours. And you expect, 2 years old, when you go back to the apartment, he should fall asleep, right? Or at least on the way there. It never happened. Or if he fell asleep, it would be for 10 minutes, and then he wakes up, and he was a very cranky, unhappy boy. Omar, forgive me, please. I'm sorry. Anyway, he kept me entertained for a couple years, and that's when I got pregnant with my second son, and that's when my husband had to leave the US because his visa requirements was to leave the US when he finishes residency. So we had a tough choice what to do. The requirement was either to stay in the US and serve in an underserved area, or to go back home, work 2 years, sorry, work for 2 years in Syria and come back to the US to work if you want to come back. We could not find an underserved area because the computer back then, it was dial in. Imagine waiting for the page download, and it took forever. It was a pain. Let me tell you, he would sit for hours and hours every day looking for jobs in underserved areas. There were tons of them, but they were not, advertised for. It was not very common to advertise about those jobs online. It was just very rough. We had to leave the US. The other option was to go back to Syria, but it was not an option because in Syria, men have to fulfill their military service requirements. So going to Syria, he would be drafted. This is how it is overseas. So it was not an option. So what to do? He found a job in Canada, in New Brunswick, Canada, a very tiny town in Canada, 5,000 people. You can imagine another cultural shock from Houston, where you find tons. I don't need to tell you about what you find in Houston, right? Tons of Middle Eastern restaurants, tons of mosques, tons of Arabs walking in the streets. I mean, Muslim kids in public schools. I mean, Muslim kids in private schools, Muslim women working everywhere. So for me to go to this tiny town in Canada, it was very rough. I fell in depression for a couple of years, and then I decided it is what we can't do anything. There is no school there, just nursing. And if you ask me to go for a blood test, I would cry my head out. I'm terrified. I mean, that's who I am. So nursing is not one of the options at all. So I had to just, wait until we leave Canada. 5 years there, we got the Canadian passport, and I had my second boy there in Canada. My older son was speaking French, and he was enjoying it. And I was excited to go back to the US. So my husband found a job in Dover Foxcroft because he had to go back to underserved area as well. We did not know back then that Bangor is underserved area. So we came to Dover. We built a house in Corinth, Maine, and I bet many of you are familiar with Corinth, Maine. Don't ask me, but why? But if you ask me, I would tell you, I was so sweet, and I wish my husband was on to listen to this, because I did not want to live in Bangor and have him drive to work every single day. I just felt, bad. Driving 45 minutes. No, let's build in the middle, which was a huge mistake. For those who are young, don't do this, because women take care of everything. So just don't do it. It was a huge mistake. So 1 year into living in this house in Corinth, me bringing the kids to school in Bangor, we rented an apartment in Bangor. I was cooking in Bangor. I was just a dedicated mother and wife, cooking our meals, bringing them to the house at night, taking my kids to after school activities in Bangor, swimming, basketball, soccer, just name it, taekwondo, trying everything. So that was my life. In the back of my head, I was not happy. In the back of my head, what am I doing? It was so much fun. And Marwa is here, and we had so much fun back then. Our kids were growing up, babies, and we were everywhere having fun. But Marwa at that time, she went back to school, but me, I was still, because it has been a few years away from school, I just felt so scared to go back and unable to go back. I thought I was a failure. I would not do it. I could not do it, but I was not happy that I was not doing anything. I was not happy. I was not achieving what I came to the US to do, to start with. So it was really, I had to go through a couple of years where, what am I gonna do with my life? So lack of confidence, it made me apply to hustle, to take classes. I don't know why I did that, but now, just because I was afraid I would fail. And then the instructor would tell me, Dina, what are you doing here? And I said, I don't know if I can do master. She said, you are the top one in the class. Why are you still here? Just go and try. So I was the top in the class at Hassan. So, but I did not get it yet. Nope. Probably if I go to UMaine, it would be harder. So I would not be able to do it. I have to try. I signed up for classes at University of Maine, and the same thing happened again. And they told me, what are you doing? Just go and, figure out what you want to do with your life. So one of the instructors was very sweet, and she told me about how probably ESL is now it was a big thing. I'm talking about back in 2012. It's a big thing, teaching English to speakers of second languages. So I started masters in that, and I had to take the TOEFL. Probably those who work with foreign students know what I'm talking about. I had to take the TOEFL, I had to take the GRE again. So I had to go through this, and as if I was so afraid to fail that I felt I was just as if craving, I don't know if I'm saying it right, craving in rocks. Do you have this here in English? Craving rocks. So it was so hard. This is what we say in Arabic. And I don't know if Marwa or Basant want to help me with what we call this, but I felt every step I took was hard labor for me. Nothing came easy. My boys were growing up. I felt I was able, because I used to teach them Quran, Arabic, Islamic studies, English, read English books with them in school so that they know what they're reading, because remember, they have both languages spoken at home. So I was worried they don't get, the meaning behind the words. So that's how it was for quite some time until they went to medical school. That's when I felt I can do it now, probably. So I applied to master's degree and I got it, and I started for 1 year. I took a few classes, and then I attended a meeting at Food and Medicine. I started to get involved in the community, and I loved to work for social justice cause and economic justice cause, and to fight poverty. And I felt it was a calling for me, and there was no stopping ever since. So as I was going to school at University of Maine, Marwa would be invited to talk about Islam and Muslim women. And she would ask me to come with her because I have different perspective coming from Syria. So we were doing that. And then I was working, volunteering for Food and Medicine. I got engaged. I was invited to sit on the Wilson Center's board, and I was doing that. We were working on like many activities at the Islamic Center of Maine. So I started this, I don't know, it's like a rolling ball, but it was amazing. And I was enjoying every minute of it. I was not home the whole day. I will cook in the morning and go to classes, and then go to Food and Medicine or to the Wilson Center. I was everywhere, and I enjoyed every minute of it until today. Whenever there is something that's, for a cause, I'm there. I do my best to do it, even though now it's too complicated because, I have a lot going on. So it's hard to keep up, but I still do my best to be out there and support whatever need to happen there in the community. So working with, doing my master's in, okay. So Basant is telling me carving rocks is probably an Arabic idiom with no English equivalent. Thank you so much, Basant. But you can tell what I mean by that. You can tell what I mean by that. Yeah. So where did I stop? Yeah. So anyway, so for 10 years, I was so involved in the community, and it was a calling, as I said before, and I excelled at University of Maine, and I was invited to sit on many committees for admission of a graduate school, to sit on panels when they involve talking about immigrant women and, overseas versus living in the US. So I was all over the place, wherever is needed, I was there. That's how it was, and it's still the case. Running for city council, I never thought about it until probably a couple of 3 years ago. When I started being involved in the community, I never thought about city council. I did not even know how things work. I had no idea how politics work, who runs the city. I mean, I hear about stuff through food and medicine, but still, it's not the same overseas. It's not the same. It's totally different. Like, what do you say? Different. Help me, please.
Apples and oranges.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's very different. Yes, I mean, totally different situation here than there. So it took me some time to understand, but still, it was never on my mind. Running was never on my mind. I just enjoyed what I was doing, and I felt God placed me in this city to do this work, and I just felt like, I don't know, there was a wisdom in me living in Bangor. Because when I came to Bangor, I told my husband, I'm staying for 3 years. We get our green card and I'm out of here. Because I was still, just the kids. I'm just doing this stuff, hanging out with my friends for lunches and enjoying it and kids activities. But still, I'm not able to connect much with people. I'm still talking about myself. Talking about who I am. I was so shy, and I'm surprised that I was shy, but I was so shy, and I always felt I was not good enough. I'm serious. That's how I felt. Just because I was away for so long from being in school and from being active. But even when I was very active in the community, I was not that confident. I felt getting involved in the community, it improved my confidence level. And I felt I broke out of this shell of being afraid of being just with the friends, with people who are like me, talking about Muslim women, basically. So I felt I was able to break out of this shell and connect with the community. And that's when I started to feel like Bangor became home. So at one point, when my husband, and some of you heard this before, but the rest have not, when my husband at one point told me, oh, you can't, I want to move. I'm not happy and I want to move. And I looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry, you go move alone. I'm staying here. He said, what happened to my wife? I'm like, well, go figure what happened to your wife. I'm enjoying life because I feel I belong, because I feel people care about me. I care about them. They feel too that I do care about them. There is this, wherever I go, I find friends, and this is what makes it home. What does make home? It's having people who become like your family. If I meet many of you, like I don't know everyone, but those I know, and I don't want to mention names, but I'll just throw a couple names: Lori or Jerry or Suzanne. I mean, Ross. I mean, John, Bill, Michelle. I mean, Johnny. I mean, everyone. And it's home. When I see you guys when I'm shopping at the grocery store, this is how it is when I'm overseas. This is what makes it home. When I'm presenting somewhere, I see your beautiful faces. They're supporting me. This is what makes it home. And this is why I decided to stay. And then a friend of mine who used to work for Senator King, and I think she still works for Senator King, but in Portland, she mentioned to me, why don't you think about, running for office? And that was 4 years ago. She did Emerge Maine back then. And she told me about it. It didn't hit me like, no, I was afraid to do it. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing what I'm doing in the community to run for office. And she was laughing and she's like, Dina, get over this. You are already doing all of the work. It's just you do it from this position, and you're doing it for the same community. And I was afraid. No, people, like, how would people, vote for me? I'm a Muslim woman wearing a scarf with an accent. Forget it. That's how it's not going to happen. No way. So I did not do it. I did not act on it. And then my friend Lori Usher, she from Bethel, she invited me to do Emerge Maine. And that's when I did Emerge Maine. And they show you that you can that you can do it if you get the support. You can do it. So they taught me how to run, what it takes to run. So now it's not impossible. So I'm breaking the ice here. I'm breaking the barriers. It's not impossible. You can do it. There's a chance you will never win, but it's worth it to try. So Angela came to the council and she won. And I thought so everyone was like, look, Angela won, Marwa won, why don't you try? And I told them, do you think people will be ready to vote for another different woman with an accent, with the scar? So I was still doubting myself. But because I did Emerge Maine, and I built a network of support, not just in Emerge, but in the community. They taught me how not to be afraid to talk to the people I know, not to talk to the people who support me, not to talk about fundraising. Fundraising, me as an immigrant, as a Muslim woman, I don't know, I'm not used to ask for money. I mean, I was like, no way. Me and Marwa, we would be like, no way, knock on doors. No way, fundraise. No. It was a huge no-no. And if you decide to run, forget about dignity, about your pride, and get ready to ask for money, get ready to ask for support, get ready to ask for people to knock on doors with you. So I can't imagine I did all of that. I can't believe I did that. I'm amazed at myself that I did that. And when I put my heart into something, it's a goal. I have goals set for me and I want to do them. And that was my goal. And I did it. The first year when I ran, it was rough because I thought many people know me because, I was very active in the community for years. I figured probably most people don't know me. And that was shocking to me, but many people did not know who I was. So I took my time, talking to people, and imagine with the mask on and the scarf. It was a huge thing. Knocking on doors during a pandemic is a totally different story than running in regular times or regular days. So it was really rough, and I was exhausted. I don't know how I did it. Anyway, I put my heart. Everyone supported me. Everyone donated. It was really, but the real work, I did a lot of that. So it was a lot, and I was exhausted for a couple of 3 months. I lost, and I'm never running again. So listen to this. Never running again. That's it. No way, Jose. I'm getting rid of my signs. And then for a few months, it took me, seriously speaking, in June of that year. So I lost in November. In June, they approached me to run for public office, to run again. And I was like, no way, I'm not ready. I just knocked on doors. Oh my gosh, I can't even do it. Okay, yeah. So anyway, but I did it again, and I was discouraged a little bit because some doors people were not really supportive. Not only, you expect, not everyone is going to support me, not everyone is going to vote for me, and that's very normal. But I was discouraged when, you knock on a door and you expect someone to welcome you, and then they tell you, move to the next door. 3 years ago, someone tells me, move to the next door, I go back home. Forget about this. No way, I'm not doing this. No, I went to the next door, and I knocked on the next door, and some doors people were like, go away, just like simply like this year when I ran, go away. And that was, and I was like, oh, no problem, thank you, sir. And I would leave to the next door. So it takes a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance to do it. Not everyone supports you regardless. Those who know me, they know that really, really my heart is in this community. They know that whatever I do, and part of it, it's my religion. When you do something, you perfect it, you learn, this is how Islam is, and this is what I learned. My religion, it makes me who I am now. So family tradition, I would say, but Islam. I learned my religion here in the US, the real religion, not the cultures overseas, different cultures. It was my religion who made me who I am today. My family, my parents, my big family, and my religion. So when you do something, my religion taught me, perfect it. So do it for the sake of Allah, for the sake of God, not because you expect something, reward or something for doing that. So that was my intention. And those who know me, again, they know that's who I am. And I just do it because I love what I'm doing. So I continued knocking on doors, and I was discouraged, yes. And when it was election day, I thought I was losing, because many doors, they came back to back. It was not good. So I came back home. This is not happening. And I wish I never tried this. I wish I did not run. So when they called me that I won, and I wanna mention that Laura Sipika, who is state representative now, she was my campaign manager, and she was amazing, supporting me. She would call me every day. Dina, I'm there if you need help. I'm there if you need support. Other friends as well reached out. But regardless how a huge team of supporters you have, the work is yours. You have to do it. You have to get out there and do the work. So I did a lot of that, but I think canvassing the year before helped a lot. So people already know me. And when I knock on doors this year, people were, oh, we thought you won. Are you rerunning this year? I'm like, if I won, I would not be knocking on your doors now. So no, I did not win. And some people confused me with Marwa. That was hilarious. And sometimes I just let it go. So one amazing woman, very sweet, she said, oh, my son mentioned you to me that you presented at Vine Street School. And I was like, I did not go to Vine Street School. That must be Marwa. Should I mention that or not? And I decided, you know what? I'm not mentioning about it. So I'm like, oh yeah, thank you. Please thank your son on my behalf. But so this is how, like, it was just hilarious. Yeah. Other places, it was people will just open the door and they will tell me, you got 6 votes in this house. I don't know these people. So I felt the love and support of people in the community. But I'm telling you, I did not expect to win. When I won, it was a huge shock in a good sense. I mean, it was positive, of course, but it was a shock. I did not expect it. And but it was good. And the work, I knew it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. I knew it was, but I did not know it was that much work. And I'm doing it. I mean, I enjoy every little bit of it. It's a lot of work, and it needs someone to love this work in order to do it. You need to have the passion to do it in order to do it. Being on the council, it's not simple, it's not easy. You have to think about everyone, to be fair when you read anyone's complaint, when you discuss something, to be mindful. So there's a lot, and I'm doing my best, and I hope that the people who voted me because they believe in what I was running on, I hope they see that I'm doing what I promised. And I always mention this in city council meetings. I'm delivering promises. I promise I will support this issue, for example, because I believe in it. Expanding on mental health services or substance abuse treatment centers or housing. I mean, this is what I believe should happen, and this is what I'm doing now. And now they laugh, they make fun of it, but of course, I mean, it's fun, and they say, you're delivering. You promised you're delivering. I'm like, yeah, sure, of course, yeah, I am. So I'm gonna conclude by saying this, because I mean, I want to leave half an hour for questions and answers. I can talk till tomorrow, but I'm gonna just be quiet now and listen to your questions and answer them if there are questions. I don't know if there are questions.
So there's been a couple. I had the question of why you chose to wear the scarf. You said it was a decision you made, and are you?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thank you, appreciate it. So in the Quran, there's a verse that states very clearly that it is an obligation that Muslim women who hit puberty have the obligation of wearing the scarf. I knew it all the time. I knew it all the time. First of all, it was not practiced in our family. I saw how my mother struggled with it. But even my mother, who struggled with it, she knew it was an obligation and she decided to wear it prior to her passing. So a couple of years, she knew it was an obligation. And I knew when I was 14 years old and I was supposed to wear it, I knew it, but it's just a choice and I did not have a choice. I mean, I have the choice. Even when it is an obligation, like everything else in religion, I still have the choice. So like many people who choose not to wear it, I chose, you know what, later probably. But when my mom passed away, I started to think about it. I started to think about, you know, life is short. This is my mom, she was 49 when she passed away. So it can be me, any. So, and I knew it was there and I knew I have to do it at one point, even though I had the choice. So it was Ramadan and I just felt after her passing, life is not worth, you know, living without adhering to religion. And it's not gonna change who I am because I'm the same exact person. And this is gonna even make me better probably because I'm presenting my religion. People, when they see me walking in the street, they know this represents Islam. So this here is a Muslim woman. So I feel it like it becomes not only an obligation, but I want to do it because definitely it makes me a better person. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've got a couple other questions that folks
Yes,
ask.
please. Yeah,
One
please.
was, what city did you come from in Syria?
Latakia. It is a coastal city in Syria to the left by the Mediterranean. It's right on the Mediterranean.
And what town did you live in Canada?
Campbellton.
And where in New Brunswick? Was that in
Campbellton
the French
in
part?
No, it's the middle. It's closer to the northern part of. Actually, it's northern because there is a coastal area to the northern of Canada, which is called the Gaspé Bay. So
Yep.
it's to the north. It's north. It was brutal. It had brutal winters. Let me tell you this. A brutal winter. Brutal. Yeah. In Syria, there is a tiny town where my family came from, but we always we lived mostly in Latakia because it was the city. So it's called Jeble, but no one recognizes that town. Now it's bigger and it's more recognizable, Jeble and Latakia.
Cool. Do other folks have questions? Mary has one, but she's going to have to unmute. Mary Phillips. There you go. Go ahead, Mary.
Thank you, Pam. Dina, I was interested when you said that your friend is teaching at a university. And tell me about the war. Is it pockets of different places where it's much safer and you can go to school and females can go to the university? Because when we think, at least I think of Syria, it's war-torn. So could you explain that a little bit?
Thank you for your question. So yes, Syria is torn by war, absolutely. But yeah, there are pockets where we call it hot pockets where it's active war zone. Right now, we have them in very limited areas in Syria, northern part in Syria, and to the east, northeast at the border with Iraq, where ISIS is now, they're active. So that's where there's a lot of war. The rest of Syria, what they're struggling with right now is economic failure. So this is the problem now. Financial crisis. Now it's winter, it's cold. People can't find propane. They can't find gas for their cars or for for their heaters, no electricity. If they have an electrical heater, they don't have electricity, they don't have running water. It's very challenging. So they have a lot. People are struggling financially, economically, and this reflects on their mental health as well. So you can imagine. And on top of that, Syria experiences attacks by the Israeli government. So where my family lives, it's a coastal area, Latakia, again, Latakia. So there is a port. So the port, it gets bombed every now and then. So every month. So my sister lives by the water, by the Mediterranean. So when this bombing happened last month, with social media, you hear about it as it's happening. So we were reading on the news, and we heard like Latakia and the port, and I know that's where my sister lives. So I was texting, I was calling, and she said, Dina, the sky is red. The sky, we don't know, there is bombing. We can see like the sky, the noise. It was very scary. So that's where we are. Between like 15 minutes closer to where my family lives, there is an airport, and the Russian, it's now a Russian base, and that's where bombing, not there, but there is a lot of activity. So it's not stable at all. But the active war zones are to the northeast, the north, and where else? Mostly there. Yeah, but it's not still like, it's hard to go back to life in Syria right now because of the economic problem or crisis that they are experiencing right now. Yeah. So it's really rough. Imagine when I talk to my mother-in-law, she is 84, 85 years old, and she is freezing. They can barely find enough gas to keep the heater running. So it's really, really rough. And they are lucky if they can find propane to cook. Those propane, what do you call them? Propane,
Stove?
Not stove. Yeah, stove, but it's like, it comes in, okay, Basant, what do you call it in English? Anyway, propane tanks. Because it's not running, like here under the ground and stuff and connected to homes. No, they have to buy the propane tank and connect it to the stovetop to work. So they can't find that. And so like my sister, she laughs. My sister is a very positive person. So she calls me at 1 a.m. her time, which is 6 p.m. our time. I'm like, what are you doing now? It's 1 a.m. She said, oh, we have, the power is back now. So I am preparing dinner so that tomorrow I don't have to worry about it because there is no electricity the whole day.
1 o'clock in the morning.
So I'm telling you, so this is how rough it is. So so she uses like the slow cook or, this is anything that to manage. And the same. So when people have power for a couple hours, everyone, they start their washers, they start, the heat, they charge their phones. So they play around it. So it's so rough. That's what they're experiencing now. Everyone who is living there, it's very rough for them.
Wow. Thank you, Dina.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for asking this question because this is how it is. I mean, when you ask people, it is what it is. What can we do? Everyone is struggling like that. It's everyone's struggle.
Other questions?
Yes, please.
Just hop in. I think we're down to enough people. You can just hop in.
Hi, Dina. This has just been fascinating to listen to you tell your story. I've just loved every minute of it. I'm wondering, as a woman who has found her voice and her ability to be a leader in the United States, how do you feel your actions have affected your sons? how do you feel that they are strengthened by it, or does it not particularly affect them? I'm just curious how you feel about that.
Thank you so much for asking this question. Appreciate it. Part of me going back to school was to be there for my sons so that they see they have a role model at home. Not only their dad, because I'm the one who is raising them up. I'm the one who is teaching them life skills. I'm the one who is helping them learn about life, how to behave, how to do this, how to do that, fix a behavior, correct a problem. And so I'm the one who they come to. So I want to be that role model for them. And I want them to be confident about who they are as Muslims. You won't believe it, but back then when I just started to go back to, to school, they were still there, like, shy to, to express to people that they're Muslims, to talk about, they will, but not like, they were not that confident. I absolutely believe it helped them to see their mom achieving. Yes, it definitely helped them be more confident about who they are and to be proud of my achievement. And they still think, because I do a lot of things with them whenever they allow me to do it. So I'm the cool mom, I'm doing this and I can achieve. So I feel they are empowered. Yes, absolutely. And more confident. Yes. And I'm so happy, because definitely this was partly why I wanted to go back, to school and achieving now. And whatever, when they feel there is an obstacle and they feel, oh, I can't do it. If I did it, you can do it. I always tell them, look at me. So I always do this. I'm annoying. I'm an annoying mother. I mean, I can't deny that, but I'm also the cool mother. So I always tell them, look at me. Look at where I am now. When you work hard, you get there. So you achieve when you put your heart in what you do. So definitely, yes, it helps a lot. Yes, they are empowered. They are more confident. Yes.
You've done such a good job that it's hard to come up with a question.
John will be putting
Right.
John will be putting the link in the chat for the survey, so please. No?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
hope
go ahead,
I will
Bill.
not. Yeah, no. I just hope I will not kick myself after we sign out and I'm like, I wish I said this or talked about this. Oh, I forgot about saying this. I know myself. I will be kicking myself after we finish.
So I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah.
I have to give you a hard time, Dina.
Please do.
So my question to you is, as a Muslim woman who is considered a wonderful role model and a leader in the Muslim community as well, what do you want to say to other Muslim women who are fearful of perception or fearful of putting themselves out there, running for office, following their dreams, going into higher education? So what would you say to them, and what do you want them to know about your journey and how they can overcome all types of, the phobias that, a lot of women have, not just Muslim women, but all women have in putting themselves out there?
Thank you so much. I told you guys I would be kicking myself. Marwa, thank you so much for this question, because this was one of the points I wanted to highlight and I totally forgot. Thank you. I would say don't take long to find yourself, to find your dream, to work towards your goal. I regret wasting few years not knowing what to do about myself or about my life just because I was not confident, just because I thought I was unable to do it. Don't take forever. There are always supportive people in the community, Muslims and non-Muslims. Don't just, I would say, break out of your shell sooner than later. Don't waste years just because you think you can't do it. We are all supported with people who are amazing, who are there to help us. I mean, I could not have done it without all of your support. Many of you here on the screen, and I appreciate every single one of you. I mean, yes, I worked hard, yes, and it makes sense that I achieved if I worked hard, but without this support system, no, I don't think I would have been able to be where I am now, to be in this position. That's why I don't want people to wait forever. Work on yourself, reach out for support if you need support, reach out for help. It's not, you should not be ashamed if you're struggling with one area. You would think you're struggling, but then you will realize, I wish I did not, I wish I did not think much about it because it's not a big deal. And so you can always remind yourself you can. I always use this technique when I work with my clients. It's called the strengths perspective, and it does wonder. It does wonder. Everyone is capable. Everyone has traits. If you just work on yourself, and you can reach to your goals. You can get to what you want. I work with women who struggled a lot, traumas, PTSD, and I tell them, I don't know if I could have done it if I were in your place. You have done an amazing job, keeping your children, trying hard, and having a part-time job. You are doing an amazing job. You are not aware of it, but you're doing it. That's why every woman has a lot of strengths. Find your strengths. Don't stick to just your shell, especially immigrant women. Don't just, don't be comfortable. Challenge yourself. I feel every step I do or I take, it's a huge challenge, and I work for it and I do it. So this is what makes it even better when it's a challenge, but you still do it. When you put your heart, when you work hard, that's when you achieve. So for every woman, we are all there. Do it. You have a lot of strengths and you can achieve. If I did it, everyone else can do it. I'm not special. I'm not out of the ordinary. I'm just a regular, normal woman. I have my strengths. I have my weaknesses. I worked on the many challenges that I have. One of them is being unconfident about my abilities. So don't get stuck with your own negative thoughts about yourself. That's my recommendation, my advice. There's amazing, supportive women out there in our community. I mean, and I bet in every community you will find that, but you will not find them if you're sitting at home and not doing anything about it. You will. How would people know that? What makes Bangor home is that when I put effort, when I connect, people are there to welcome me. People are there to pull me out of my shell, to pull me out of my zone, which I created for myself and which it was not good. You challenge yourself. Challenge yourself. You are capable. That's my advice.
Bill has a question.
I have one question, Dina.
Yes, please.
You've accomplished so much. What is your dream for the next 3 to 5 years? What wonderful things can we expect to hear about and see you doing over the next few years?
Thank you for your question. Yeah. So one thing, now I'm on the council, and I feel it's very important to work hard to achieve at least to solve some of the most critical problems that our community has struggled with for such a long time and are exacerbated by the pandemic. So this is something I'm really focused on right now. If I can, by working with the council, with other council members and city staff, if we can solve some of these problems or work on them, because solving them will take years and years, but to address them, to start working on addressing those problems, I would be really happy if we can achieve something. On a personal level, seeing my children achieving, this is something I want to see. I want to live to see them achieving in life and being independent on their own and achieving their dreams as well. For myself, honestly, I mean, just to see people in Bangor happy, living better, probably I mean, as a mental health therapist, that probably to see more treatment centers for substance abuse, for more services for people with mental health, more affordable housing. This is a dream for myself. And I don't know if I'm ready. Probably I'm not that ready yet to apply for PhD. I feel there's a lot going on right now in my life. So probably in a few years from now, yes, but not right now, because I'm very focused on what I'm doing. And I know I'm stretching myself thin, and I can do more than this. So I'm just trying to be realistic and not do more than I can handle.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Good
Dina,
advice. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, both for Dina and Marwa, and there are many of you in this room, I am really thrilled to see Bangor High School developing a program. I believe one of the important keys that Dina just talked about, the mental health and learning how, learning to regulate our emotions, is really critical for society. And it's very exciting to see these younger women just, well, not even just younger, see all of us working together. So, and I feel that the Maine MultiCultural Center has been making that effort and was formed for that. So I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Thank you
you.
Thank you for referring to that. Marwa is, I don't know if she's still here, but I see Claire as well. Yeah, Marwa is still here. Claire is here. They have been working so hard on this. And when I was knocking on doors, canvassing with Claire a couple of years ago, when she was running for school committee, and the year before Marwa, it was a Claire, because this is her, specialization, mental health. If you see how parents connected with her right away when she talks about mental health, and especially struggling families. I remember those, she was talking to a teenager at Cape Heart, and the kid was complaining about how his voice is not heard, how, because he has mental health problems, he does not feel his voice is heard. Remember, Claire? So I feel that the school committee, with their leadership, with Claire there, with Marwa's leadership, I feel they have really achieved a lot in the last couple of years. It's amazing. It's really amazing. And I feel more is happening. They're working on more projects, and I know they can talk more on that than myself. I can barely, catch up with with the city council, but definitely the DEI committee they created is doing wonders. And I know Maine MultiCultural Center is on this committee, and I know they are collaborating to make more to advance the curriculum, to advance mental health, to advance all of those issues at our schools. Right, ladies? I think so. Okay.
Yeah, Dina, I had a question for you. And
yes, please.
Yes, it's really exciting. Thank you for that shout out, Dina. It's exciting what's going on in the schools. I'm wondering, hearing you talk about other Muslim women who might be struggling to kind of put their voice out there and jump into the ring, and some confidence issues that they might have. What do you see the role of therapy being for those women in Bangor in particular, but just in general? I mean, and how that kind of fits in with your religion? I'm just curious.
Definitely helps. It definitely helps. So Islam encourages, because we have to take care of our bodies and our mental health. So it is an obligation to take care of our body. And so there is one verse, like I'm not making this up. So there is a verse where we have to take care of our bodies, and mental health is a part of this. For women, absolutely. I think like, and I can give this an example, working with you, you did therapy to me. Marwa did therapy to me. How many times we talked on the phone and I was like, I can't do this. I don't think I can handle this. And Claire, you were there. Marwa, how many times I bothered you at 10 p.m. and I don't know, I'm crazy. Why am I doing this today? Why am I running? How many times? Of course, therapy helps. Absolutely. I'm telling you for me working with the clients I work with, from my role as a counselor, mental health counselor, strength perspective, probably you were not here when I was talking about this. I focus a lot on strength perspective. Everyone has a lot of strengths and I highlight them. Probably I'm capable, but I'm in this moment of just losing it. I'm so stressed. I can't do this. And I had a bad door and it just, made me lose my face, in my town, and I'm not gonna do this. So you jump in, or Marwa jumps in and you tell me, no, you're doing an amazing job and you can do it. Keep it up, do it. So this is therapy. What do you call this? This is therapy, absolutely. It definitely helps, yes. Yes, I highly recommend it. Yeah, and by the way, overseas, we don't have therapy is not very common overseas, mental health therapy. Just recently, they started to have, more therapists, but 20 years ago, even like in the last 5 years, it's hard to find a therapist overseas. So if there is a stigma related to mental health, and I hope there will be more focus on this issue. I'm talking about Syria and other countries in the Middle East. This is a huge difference between the US and overseas. But I wanted to remember that we have a huge support system over there. I'm talking about family and friends and neighbors. So everyone comes to the rescue when you need help or support, or when you're struggling with anxiety. Like, me and my friends, we talk like 10 times a day, probably. Now, no one has time to talk to anyone else. That's why we need therapy, because, you get to a point where you don't have many people available because everyone is busy. So lifestyle is different, but I do recommend therapy. Yes, absolutely. And thank you for your question. Yes.
Any other questions for Dina before we wrap things up? Getting to the end of our time here. Thank you so much, Dina. It's wonderful. I really appreciate it. Just really appreciate it. It's been very, very wonderful.
Thank you so much for Maine Multicultural Center for this invite. Thank you so much for Bill and Mary for making this happen. For you, Kim, thank you so much for everyone who came tonight and spent 1 hour and a half of your busy schedule to, you made a point of signing in and listening to me talking about my story. I hope it was not boring. I hope I was able to entertain you a little bit, because I know this, it could be, some just dry stuff, but yeah, I hope it was not that dry. But thank you so much. I appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much.